I'm gonna keep going, Mayor. Pause for a minute.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Good.
Thank you. Great, I appreciate the time. So what we'll do is just go over quite a few slides. I'll go through quickly, and like Commissioner said, if you have any questions at all, please stop me and we'll answer as best we can. So we do have a rating system that we've been using for quite some time. It's a 1 through 10 rating system. Generally, what we try to do is have a 0%. What would be the ideal situation in East Peoria is to have 0% at a 2 level. This is a 2 level gravel. This is a total failure. This was one of our streets a number of years ago, Sabrina. But we'd like to have 0% of these. 0% at actually 3, we classify that as numerous potholes. Some potholes at 0% would be ideal again. We would expect 20% at a 5, 25% at a 6, another 25% at a 7, 15% at an 8, 10% at a 9, and 5% at a 10. This is a bell chart that we've used before. The lines here that you see, the dashed lines and the thinner lines, those are actual 2013, 2015, 17, and 19 is this one right here, this dark purple one. This green represents, this dark green, a bolder green represents what our ideal situation is that I talked about the percentages earlier. As you may know, we've been tracking bituminous prices for quite some time, and as over the years, blacktop prices have just increased steadily. And in fact, we had a meeting not too long ago where we met with a contractor, and he was commenting that blacktop prices were again this year going to be going up for several reasons. A number of different projects in the area, including the river being closed for 6 months. It's going to drive prices up. So that represents the green line, and the red line represents the amount of our program, and it's fluctuated over the years. This is another representation of that same budget history of our street maintenance, identifying how it's fluctuated. It's gotten as high as 2.5 million. Last year we were about 1.25. This year so far we've allocated 900,000 of MFT, and MFT, I will mention, we've gotten a 40% increase in MFT, which has helped all the municipalities. So we're going to try to put that to good use. What we do is go out each year and rate all of our streets. We give them that 1 through 10 rating. We take the bottom 50 or so streets. Myself and a street foreman go out and rate all of the streets, and then we take those bottom 50 streets, hand it over to Rick and the other street foreman, have them go out independently rate. We come back together, sort them out into that rating system, and then we go through and delineate which streets are ready for that next step and inclusion in our street maintenance program. And we have different reasons for taking one over the other, and it's quite a healthy discussion. So in this is an example of what our streets were for this year. So Illini Drive was one of our streets that we bumped up because of the amount of spray patching that was done last year. You can tell it's kind of wobbly as you go down with your car along that road, but it's because of the amount of spray patching that we actually did. So we actually, even though that didn't rate as low, we bumped it up because if we didn't do that spray patching, it would have actually been pretty low. There are other streets that we don't do for other reasons, mainly hotel motel funds. Some of those streets out there, like Filippi's parking lot, Dolan's Way, Par 3 Lane is another one that comes to mind, that are perhaps tied to hotel motel funds that could be used for improvement in that regard. So again, this is the second page of those bottom 50 or so streets. We've tried to stretch our dollars as much as possible. Again, blacktop prices have steadily increased over the years. We've come up with a heat scarification and seal coat process that has seemed to have prolonged our streets and may extend even longer than some of our blacktop streets. These are the streets that we picked over the years for this year, I'm sorry. And in some regards too, if we're doing a 2 or 3 streets in a certain subdivision, we might include a 4th street, again, that may not be rated as low, but just to complete that particular area and get up and out of the way of the traveling public. So this is the map for this year for that 900,000 that we're talking about. We've identified this area up here, which is the Highview S-curve. I'm going to call it the S-curve all the way to Centennial. Regent Regal area. This part of Illini Drive. Taylor Road down by the school. Kerfoot. This one over here is Patricia Barber Greenwood. That's another small little subdivision. Richie Melville. Linda Bergman James. Briar Court's in there. Chestnut's in there. We have a double seal coat that we've got planned on Julian. Julian is up off of Reinders, up of 150. It's a thinner street that we've tried to seal coat before, but we think we're going to be able to prolong that again with a double seal coat rather than increasing that cost significantly with blacktop and stretching our dollars. That's the name of our game, is trying to stretch those dollars, but we think we can double seal coat that. So I took some pictures yesterday of some of the streets that we're actually going to be doing. And so this is Royal Vista, Regal, and Regent. You can see the extensive cracking. And it's exaggerated in some regard because of the wetness of the cracks. They tend to show up more. I think I've mentioned that before in other presentations. This is Illini, so you can see the amount of spray patching that we've done there. And again, if we didn't do that spray patching, what we're trying to accomplish in that is covering up some of the cracks like this in preparation for that heat scarification process to come through. This is Matthew. Again, that's a thin street that we're going to try to double seal. Highview Road. I have some pictures later of this, and it's pretty interesting, but Highview Road was done in 2009 with an overlay with some of the stimulus money at that time, and just the age of the blacktop starts to oxidize, and it just needs to be sealed up. Barbara. There's another picture of Barbara. Julian. Julian's in pretty bad shape, but we think we can save it. We've done worse streets before. This is Taylor, down by the school. And Kerfoot, up on the top, not the hill portion. The heat scarification is limited in that regard. It's a 2 semi-long process that cannot go up super steep hills. So Kerfoot Hill, for example, probably our steepest hill that I know of in this area, that's not going to be an ideal situation for the heat scarification process. Woodway Court, Chestnut, Ritchie, and Briar, James. And so this is a spreadsheet we've done before, and again, I think it was in 2009 when we first brought this out, but we talked about the amount of square yards that we have in the city of East Peoria and how much we should be dedicating to that street maintenance. And back then in 2009, we talked about around 2.5 million, increasing 5% thereafter. We're not at that situation, and we haven't been for quite some time, but we try to do the best we can. And this spreadsheet does represent a 62-year rotation cycle with the blacktop. So we've come to the situation that with a 4-step process, spray patching, heat scarification, seal coat, and then a fog coat on top of that, we've seen some real success in how we've been treating our streets. And we've also seen that way to stretch those dollars. When we talk about just seal coat, it's about $4.50 a square yard. We add heat scarification to that, that's another $4.50 a square yard. And then if we add that fog coat, it's another $1.50 or so a square yard for that. We're at around 10, 11 bucks on that a square yard, but we still compare that to milling and a 2-inch overlay, and we're still half that cost. And as blacktop prices continue to increase, the realization is there. We can do double the amount of streets that we can, and we've seen the success rate of how it actually lasts in the field. So this is an in-depth look at like what those 4 processes are. So this was lilac in 2018. You can see the deterioration that we have in it, and on the right-hand side of that picture. And then we go through and spray patch. Even spray patching alone, again, just seals up those cracks, gives it some material, so when the heat scarification process goes through, they can actually level that out as much as they can and have enough material to work with. And then we seal coat. I'm sorry, and then we heat scarify. This is heat scarification. So it levels that out just to that top 1 inch. And then we seal coat on top of that. And then we put the fog coat on that. And we've had many, many people talk to us after that's done and think it's blacktop. Because of that fog coat on top of the seal coat helps to minimize the loose rock. We've seen a tremendous decrease in the calls from the public as far as the loose rock. This is spray patching, and I'll quickly go through this also. But spray patching is just an oil and rock mixture, self-contained unit on this particular truck. He sprays, blows out the debris, sprays the oil and the rock. Then we have a steel wheel roller that comes behind that. We sense that we get a better end product when we have that steel wheel on there. This is the heat scarification process. It's basically 2 semis long. There's the first one is the preheater, heats up that top inch. And then we have a second heater that comes along with the tines and roughs up that surface just to about 1 inch depth. And it turns out black. You can see the difference just in the back of that machine there. They also add a rejuvenating agent to that. That helps with, if a street is really dry, that we might add some more rejuvenating agent to that to help revive that. If a street is really rich, so it has a lot of seal coat on it, we might add less rejuvenating agent. That's the difference between beginning and end. And then we use a rubber tire roller and then a steel wheel to try and smooth that out. We've found some real success in that. The other thing we do after the heat scarification process, we try to get a rain in between the heat scarification and the seal coating so that we can see any bird baths or any water standing. We might come back and spray patch on top of that even to minimize the amount of water that sits on top of the roadway. And then seal coat, it's an oil and rock mixture. And then again, we use a steel drum roller on that we think we have a better surface at the end. This is a pneumatic, and then we use a steel wheel on top of that. And then the GSB, that holds that loose rock in place. There is a contractor in town that developed a similar product last year that we're going to open that up and hopefully get some bids from them this year also. But typically the GSB allows for about 2 to 4 hours of drying time. We close down half the road, and then once that dries, then they open up the other half. This new product has a faster drying time. It's within 10 minutes. I mean, when the truck went by, I put my hand down and nothing picked up on my hand. That's how fast it dried. And we'll evaluate it again after the winter, but it seems like it's very, very comparable, price-wise and quality-wise, to the other process. Just some different machines that we, and the temperature that the GSB that we pay attention to. So this is Country Lane. This was in 2014. You can see on the right-hand side, there's some deterioration next to the curb. There was also some sump pump issues in this area, which we addressed first. We try to address the sump pump issues as much as we can. Sometimes it's very, very cost prohibitive to address those sump pumps. If it's, it might be $50,000 to just run a couple sump pumps to the nearest inlet because it's 800 feet away. We might not do that situation because that might cost more than the actual resurfacing of the road. So we pick and choose what we can and can't do, is try to spend the money as wisely as possible. But this is in 2014, and this was in 15 after we went through the heat scarification and the seal coat process. At this time, we did not do an oil on top. This was in 17, 2 years later, and this was just yesterday. So it still looks pretty good. So that is 5 years of stability for that particular street. Another picture in Country Lane. Again, you see the cracks and the kind of streets that we're dealing with initially. And that was it yesterday. Rue Rudilac is pretty good representation on the right-hand side of what we had right here in the deterioration. And this was a year later, I believe, 2 years later, I'm sorry, 2 years later, where you can see the pavement is just a little bit whiter and it's more oxidized. Again, in 2014, right before the year before we did this. So we heat scarified, seal coated. And this one we actually did do the GSB on top. And this was it yesterday. Georgia, same situation. In the beginning, and then yesterday even. So this is 7 years old. Typically, seal coat in itself, 3 to 5 years. We add the heat scarification and seal coat on top of that. We think it's somewhere in the 7 to 10 range. Blacktop, 10 to 15 range. We've actually seen a little bit longer in that heat scarification and seal coat, what we've been doing. Timber, another one in 2012. And 2020, again, 7 years later. This was Highview in 2009. I tried to take the same pictures each time so we can get a good representation of how that street is changing over time. But in 2009, we had stimulus money, and we used that money to mill that street and take out the crown and put an overlay on top of that. And that's what it looked like after we were done. So that's in 2009. In 2014, you can start to see even the cracks reflect through. We did some crack sealing on top of that. That was it yesterday. So our process for this year, this is one of the streets that made it to the list this year. And again, we're going to heat scarify and seal coat that and put that GSB on top, or that fog coat on top. This being 2009, I think, is when that was initially done. So that is 11 years later. I would, based on our success rate of what we had on other streets, I would think that the process that we're introducing, that we've been doing for quite some time, is going to last as long, or maybe even just a little bit longer than the original blacktop. But the trick is to get those cracks sealed up. This is another, these next few pictures are some big ticket items that you want to keep in mind. That we have a pot of money that we need to dedicate towards maintenance, just to the general upkeep of the streets. And then we have larger projects, Springfield Road, for example, Highview, for example, the concrete section, Fairlane, for example. Those are big ticket items that we need to keep in mind and somehow allocate dollars to those and not take away from the maintenance. The whole idea is to bring them all up at the same time. We've prolonged Springfield Road with some crack sealing. This particular area is right as you're going down the hill, maybe about the middle of the hill by the park. And so on the right-hand side, you can see that, and this was it yesterday, where we did some spray patching and took care of that situation. You know, we don't have the money, we haven't had the money to actually overlay that, but Public Works and the contractor that we've been hiring, they've been doing an excellent job of spray patching, and we've seen some real success in just spray patching alone. East Washington's another big ticket item. West Washington, we were lucky enough to do that last year with some windmill money, and that's what it is today. That turned out to be a success. Sanford, probably one of our worst streets in East Peoria. So this particular intersection is Chicago and Sanford. This was in 2014. And I think it was 2016, we actually did some spray patching right in there. And you can see the difference, just the spray patching has done, and just sealing that up so that the water doesn't infiltrate into that. We also look for opportunities, and I'm going to give credit to Rick Szymanski on this one. IDOT was doing a project in this area, and this was our situation in 2014, and this is what it is today because of Rick's coordination with IDOT, limiting the amount of money that we as East Peoria had to put in to limit the cost of traffic control while they were in the area doing that. Those opportunities are just invaluable, and again, I would give all the credit to Rick for coordinating with IDOT and getting that intersection shored up. Camp Riverside is the one that's coming up on the Puats project. This is the Highview, the concrete section. We always talk about concrete, it always comes up. Fairlane is another one. There's typically two things you can really do with the concrete. One, you can totally remove and replace that big, you're talking about big money, or you can patch what you got right there and then overlay, which is what we did in Centennial, the hill. That was done in actually 2008. It probably could have been done last year as far as another overlay on top of that. Typically, people go with the, in the municipalities that I deal with, they tend to migrate towards just the, not total replacement, but the patching and the overlay because of the cost factor. This is Grange Road, another one that was on our list as far as one of the worst ones in the area. It didn't quite make it to make our cut because we also look at the amount of impact to our citizens, to the East Peoria citizens. We want the maximum impact for our dollars to be focused towards the maximum benefit for the East Peoria citizens. But I will point out that this is an area right here that in 2017 and in 2019, we actually spray patched that area. So again, shoring that up, sealing that up so that the water can't infiltrate into that anymore has made a huge difference, and that's just with spray patching. Fairlane was another one I mentioned before. Again, a concrete street. It has some issues. So when we look at concrete streets and look at patching that concrete street, there's many decisions that have to be made as far as, do we go to the next joint? Do we only do that particular little section that's broken up? But we get to this area, and then we're almost doing the entire street. The other thing that factors into this is traffic control. That's going to drive the price up. Access Road 6, another one that's been on our radar for a long time. That one's going to be improved this year with the developers' input on that. Illini Drive was one we did in 2015. But this section right here, this little concrete section, I think it's about 100, 150 feet long. That in itself, it's right in front of McDonald's. There's a separation between IDOT and our responsibility, and there's a little concrete section there. I'm going to call it little, because in relative terms it is. But it's $50,000. We've priced that out before with contractors, and it's $50,000 just for that little concrete section. On a line, we did a mill and overlay on that. This is what it was in 2015. This is what it was yesterday. Springfield-Muller intersection, another significant improvement. I think it was 250, close to 300,000 for that entire intersection. It is a very, very large intersection. We did that in 2015, but here it is in 2020, just yesterday, and you can start to see these cracks opening up. That's what we want to try to deter from. We want to stop the infiltration of the water into those cracks so that that won't destroy the pavement. And that is 184 slides.
Thank you, Rick. Mayor, if you don't mind, a couple things. Pat, you mentioned to me not long ago the prices of asphalt. When I first began on the council, if my memory is correct, I think it was around $80. Is it yard? Is that right?
Ton per ton.
Ton, okay. And then when I know there was a time years back that the prices spiked due to something, large projects or whatever. And when that demand went away, it's not like we didn't see a reduction in price then again. We had a jump in price, and then after the demand left, the price just stayed there. And then, unfortunately, we look at those increases quite often. I never realized how big of a value the street rating system is. And it's something that Pat started here 23 years ago. Years back, I would say probably 6-8 years ago, sometime around there, Peoria Journal started a newspaper report about the city of Peoria having their streets rated. And at the time, they contracted it out, and my memory may not be right, but it feels like it was about $60,000 to have that study done, rated all their streets. And I was so impressed because we have that done every year. And it can tell us every year how we're doing. Pat can show you how we're doing on charts. In fact, he has a lot more information than anyone else that I know of. But it's nice to watch that progression of our roads overall. We've talked a lot about complete reconstruction versus maintenance, and I am a big fan of complete reconstruction. I insist, though, we must keep our maintenance dollars up, because Pat is showing that we save a lot of money. We make our streets last longer, being able to keep our maintenance going strong. And whenever our maintenance seems to fall off, that's when you see our roads quickly deteriorating. So I'm looking forward to try to completely reconstruct some streets. But I'm committed to making sure that we can keep our maintenance dollars where they need to be. The heat scarification is something that, to me, since I've been over the streets, has been, I'm always excited about the final product when it's all done, but the process I've just absolutely hated, because we would get so many phone calls about people complaining about all the rocks that were on the road, motorcycle riders especially. It creates a mess on that road and then surrounding roads. The rocks travel. But the GSB overlay has really knocked a lot of that down. When he mentioned that complaints have dropped, for me, I can't remember the last time I got a complaint about those rocks on the surface. I'm sure this year I probably will, but after saying that. But I really think that GSB process, it is more expensive, of course, but I think it's really valuable to us. We in East Peoria have a lot of hills, and those hills are expensive to plow, they're expensive to maintain, and gravity, I think, makes them more expensive because that mass of the asphalt is actually pulling down. And he mentioned Centennial was overlay just a few years back. And
2008, yep.
2008. And I mean, already past the need of being done again. So those hills are a challenge. We love the bluffs here in East Peoria, but they are a challenge for the maintenance side of it. I wanted to talk a second about Grange Road. Grange Road is something that we want to reconstruct. It is, when we look at all of our streets, when we put into it the thought of how many of our residents will be served by maintenance to that road, it's not something we're forgetting about, but when we're trying to stretch our dollars, it is on the edge of town. I don't want to discount the importance of it because it is important, but here's why I bring this up. We have been a good contributor, and we've been very fortunate over the years with PUATs. Grange Road is one of those roads that we believe is a great opportunity for a PUATs project because it does have regional significance. A lot of people travel, I guess, across the area and take Grange Road to get to different places. Services ICC and services Washington as well as East Peoria. And I say that because a complete reconstruction of that, I think till and overlay, if I remember correctly, Pat estimated it somewhere around $2 to $3 million. And if we were awarded, I mean, we're going to have to fix Grange Road one of these days coming. If we were awarded in the future, and it'll be a decision for the council at the time, making sure that we can afford it, but our portion would be a fraction of that. So it would be a good opportunity to try to grab maintenance dollars, PUATs dollars for Grange, if at all possible. The last thing I'll say, the seal code he mentioned was 3 to 5 years. He mentioned the heat scarification, I believe, up to 10 years, and blacktop 10 to 15. When I first started, scarification was kind of a new thing, or at least we were just starting to do it. And I think I was told that it would last about 7 years. And when I heard the complaints the first year, I didn't know if it was worth it. But what we have found is its longevity has been tremendous, even along with the asphalt, the overlay. Now, I know there's a difference between mill and overlay and till and overlay, but for the price, I believe scarification is half or so of mill and overlay, and you do not get twice the amount of time with a mill and overlay than you do scarification. So those are all things that Rick and Pat look at all the time. If in the future, we'll do this as often as y'all would like. We'd like for the public to hear it. They can see the roads that we're dealing with and see the issues that we have. And then I've had some people see this and actually drive out and look at some of the areas that we've talked about. So I do think people have watched this over the years and appreciate kind of going into as much detail as we can, and we'll certainly expand if you prefer.
I was fortunate, I think it was a couple months ago that I sat down with these gentlemen and got basically the similar presentation. It was right before the evaluation process started for this year. So one of the things I'm glad I'm seeing actually in this list that I don't remember having seen in the past presentations is that you've got a laundry list of streets that you've planned for 2020, and because I'd ask you then if we can't, publish this or make it more visible to the residents that here we are and this is what we're coming to do. I agree with Dan in the conversation, and we need to continue to push and find a way. Basically, we're maintaining and very little reconstruction, and we need both. And again, we get complaints about a little bit about the maintenance and no reconstruction, because again, but we're doing what we can, and we'll see later tonight. We've got the motor fuel tax dollars that are going to be allocated, and again, that's our default, and we really got to keep pushing. And I know we're financially stretched thin, over the next, I'm going to say in the next 8 years for sure. I think the outlook is beyond this council and the next council, where we really start freeing up money from the various investments that we've currently done, which can be pretty discouraging to hear that. But again, over that time, we may need to pinch a penny here, pinch a penny there, a little tighter, and to try to squeeze out some money in the early years. One question I had is, you've already got a list here for 2020 target-wise. What are we doing to coordinate with water and waste on to make sure projects they may or may not be planning for 2020 that we're not, you're correcting it and we're digging it up later? We got that coordination going on, or?
Traditionally, once we get to that point of our final list, then we share that with water and sewer to make sure that they don't have anything planned in that regard. We've had some amount of turnover, and we've just started that discussion in the fall when we first started with that. But if we do see that opportunity where there's a water main that's going to be replaced or a sewer main that's going to be replaced, then we might swap that out with the next available street that was on there. We have that flexibility.
Most of the coordination, Commissioner, has been with adjusting manholes and meter pit valves and stuff like that. There hasn't been a whole lot of water main replacements or sewer replacements, but yeah, we can adjust things around.
There was an area last year up in the Visick area that was actually that we improved last year, and it was actually on the list even a couple years before that, and we had put it off because at that point there was some discussion about some water main breaks that were happening, and they wanted to get that main replaced. I believe there was some work done prior to us getting there, but not the full main replacement. So if they get to the point that there's main breaks that are happening on the street, sometimes we might push that list off or that street off for a few years, let that settle down and make sure that that's not going to be a full main replacement, because that's what we've been trying to avoid. And we've been very successful at trying to avoid that, where we don't come into a street, do our improvement, and then have it dug up the next year.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioners? Go ahead.
First, thank you guys for your time. I was fortunate enough to sit with Commissioner Hill when we went over the similar presentation. I think what I think of when I look at this is as we sit through budget meetings, and we sat through one, I think, was it last week? We sat and talked about budget items, and on the spreadsheet are some PUETS projects that are coming up in the future, and sometimes those are hard to swallow when you look at the city's cost of those, and we've modified some of those as far as the roundabout. We took that out and made that a little bit smaller, and while those are kind of hard to swallow when you look at, the money that's going toward those, when you look at what a little section of concrete costs by McDonald's of $50,000, and knowing that some of those PUETS projects down in the levee district are on the horizon and they're going to cost us some money, the amount of money ultimately we save by doing those is great, and that's money that we can throw into either street maintenance or reconstruction if we need to. So while maybe on the short end those are a little hard to take in because of the amount of money, ultimately they allow us to do more of this, and I think that when we sit through budget time, that's something to think about. And I know that we have representation on there that go to bat for get our projects like Grange Road or Centennial, or I know there are some others that we continue to ask for. So it's kind of what I think, and I agree with Commissioner Hill and Commissioner Decker that the maintenance is important. Reconstruction would be nice, but I think, did you say 62-year was the plan that you had?
Yes.
Back? I mean, 62 years is a long time when a street lasts approximately 10 years. So I agree we need to take a look at where we put our dollars and make sure we're maximizing them.
And Commissioner, that 62 years was at, not to rain on the parade, but it was at the 2.5 million,
right,
and then increased each year. So we've got some catching up to do.
So yeah, because we were at what, 1.25 last year? Is that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I agree. Thank you, Commissioner.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, actually, it was a very good presentation. The only thing that I would request from my side, sewer and water, and that is that, you correct me if I'm wrong, if one of your roads that you're talking about doing falls to where the sewer and water, and that's really hard not to find a road that don't need a new sewer in any older section of the city. They need to be replaced, then the sewer and the water department would be responsible for replacing the asphalt above it and the backfill. So I'm hoping that you guys keep in mind that, you know, there's times to where if you have X amount of dollars and it's half the price of having it milled and overlaid, and then allow me to get a year ahead of you, and you guys wouldn't be out of this motor fuel tax, if you would save it back a little bit to reconstruct what you guys call a complete reconstruction of Grange Road, I don't know anything about that request with sewer and water, but I would think that if a total reconstruction of Grange Road that would also include the infrastructure, correct? Or was you guys just talking about a total reconstruction?
Total reconstruction
Of the road.
of the roadway, but in situations like that, if the mains or the sewer needed replaced, yeah, we definitely need to coordinate.
Yeah, because, I mean,
Absolutely.
I haven't been here for quite 8 months, but one of the things I've learned is the bureaucratic bull crap that you have to go through. And I just can't say, hey, let's go replace this sewer over here. Well, I got the EPA down my, and I got all sorts of government agencies which you have to make happy to be able to do what you think is a necessary evil. So I think that upon request, I think the rating thing on the road is great, but when you guys pick a road out, I'm going to need a year ahead. You guys are talking this year.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I need a year because Silco's telling me that they need to be in front, a year in front of us. And then if I put the water in, I have to be in there with Silco. Then after all that's done, then the following year, the road gets tore up and redone. It takes 2 years basically for that single project. And so if you guys are telling me these are the roads that you guys are going to work on this year, then I wouldn't be able to fix anything underneath them before you fixed it. And then if I need to fix it, then I'm ripping your stuff up to fix it. And I don't mean just a water main break either.
Yeah, now,
That would be my only request.
Commissioner, these aren't reconstruction, though. These are maintenance. These are just
Right,
seal
but what I was
coating.
saying earlier is taking that maintenance money and, because I'm going to be paying for half, the sewer and water department's going to be
Buying
paying
some
for our
for us,
half.
right.
Then it's the
Yep.
same, it's going to be more because there's maybe curbs, depressed curbs, ditching that needs to be done or something. But that's the time to strike the iron when it's hot, you know? So that's my only request, and you answered my question about reconstruction on Grange Road, and I say go for it. I mean, $900,000 or whatever it is
Yeah,
isn't very much. It ain't going to go very far.
Grange Road is in the long-range transportation plan, so it's kind of sitting back in the kitty, if you will, in Puat. So if we ever decide to move forward and put it into competition, we can.
And to be real honest,
Yeah.
I would love it if they would choose it, but we all know if they chose it, our first thought would go to, man, how are we going to pay our portion? And,
Well,
and I would hope that we could find it, but that would be an uneasy conversation because our portion would be 25% or so, a third maybe.
30%, yeah. As is
Yeah, I
now,
mean, that's, it's still, even though we would save a lot of money in the long run, it still means we have to pay the bill.
And it would compete against any other projects we might have that we want to put
Yeah,
forward,
but-
so.
Yes.
But does the Puet's job include the infrastructure or just the road then?
It typically doesn't include the utilities, so no, the utilities wouldn't be included. The curb and gutter and the storm sewer would be, but the utilities wouldn't. So water, sewer, electric, gas would not be included. The city would need to.
Rick, does it
Pay for
depend
that.
on what we put forward to Puats, or are we limited on what we can put forward?
I don't understand what you mean
Like,
by
when
what-
we submit it to Puats,
There's certain criteria. The roadways have to be a designated FAU route. They have to provide continuity to the rest of the system. and they can't be maintenance projects, they have to be reconstruction projects. There's no utilities that can be replaced. The city has to pay for the cost of that.
Right. We could do it, we just have to pay for it.
The portions that the state wouldn't pay for, correct? Yeah.
The Commissioner, I'm glad you said something because it reminded me. We rate the streets. They always take a look at them in the fall, and then in the spring they take a look at them again. Y'all may remember back, I believe it was 2009 or so, right around there. We had a terrible, terrible spring where if it gets close between that freeze and thaw mark, the road will start to thaw and then it'll freeze again. And do it again and again. And what it creates is maybe a frozen layer on top and some softer layer underneath, if I'm saying that right, but it creates like blow-ups or bigger problems. Shoot, just a few years back, we ended up having to spend quite a bit more money in a few areas because our weather created blow-ups. When our maintenance gets to the point where it's starting to slip away from us. Maybe our ratings are getting down lower than we want. We are more susceptible to it. But I only say that because our ratings can sometimes change dramatically, much more than we would have expected it to.
Just want to say thank you, guys. I do look forward to this presentation every year. I'd like to keep that going every year. I think it's very important that we have this discussion and try to get a better understanding. Obviously, the $900,000 in motor fuel tax funds, we'll be approving that coming up at the regular meeting here shortly. I understand Commissioner Sutherland's frustration. I think we were all in your shoes at one time, those of us that have been on here for a bit. It is frustrating, but there are certain things that we don't really have a choice. We have to do, and that's just part of being a government entity, unfortunately. So, but no, I appreciate it, and I would like to open this up to the public for anyone that has any comments or questions regarding this topic. Seeing no one. Commissioners, anything else you'd like to? Hearing none. Okay. Well, thank you both very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you,
For your
Commissioner.
time.
Yep. With that, I'd seek a motion to adjourn the working session.
So moved.
May I have a second?
Second.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye.
All present voting, aye, Your Honor.
Thank you. We will commence the regular meeting at 6 p.m. promptly.
Yes, Your Honor.
We'll go ahead and call this regular meeting of the East Peoria City Council to order. Roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Here.
Hill?
Here.
Mingus?
Here.
Sutherland?
Here.
Mayor Call?
Here.
All present, Your Honor.
Thank you. Please rise for the invocation. Remain standing for the pledge.
Shall we pray? Heavenly Father, please give comfort and healing to those fighting the awful coronavirus, and help us focus today on what really matters. Please help us keep the spirit of cooperation as we face the ebbs and flows of life. Heavenly Father, remember we are imperfect. We need your continual guidance. In your name we pray. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Approval of the minutes, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move that the minutes of the regular meeting held on January 21st, 2020 be approved as printed.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you. Under communications, I do have one proclamation. Whereas on February 14, 1920, the League of Women Voters was formed at the Congress Hotel in Chicago, Illinois, and whereas the League was formed 6 months prior to, but in anticipation of, ratification of the 19th Amendment giving women the right to vote in the United States. The League was a political experiment designed to help 20 million women carry out their new responsibilities as voters by educating them about issues. And whereas, from the beginning, the League determined that it would be nonpartisan, neither supporting nor opposing any political party or individual candidate. And the League continues today as a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. And whereas, today the League is composed of members in over 700 local, county, and state leagues in all 50 states plus the District of Columbia, the Virgin Islands, and Hong Kong. And whereas among those state leagues is the League of Women Voters of Illinois, that was incorporated on March 22nd, 1920, and in turn is composed of over 40 local leagues with almost 4,000 members. Among those local leagues in Illinois is the League of Women Voters Greater Peoria, that was incorporated on March 22nd, 1920, and in turn is composed of 110 members. And whereas members of the League first study and then take action on a broad range of issues after reaching consensus on positions, and at all levels, among other activities, register voters, educate voters by holding candidate forums and publishing voter guides, publish public policy research, and hold meetings on key issues. And whereas the League will celebrate its 100th anniversary on February 14, 1920. And now, therefore, I, John P. Call, Mayor of East Peoria, Illinois, do hereby declare February 14th, 2020 as a date to celebrate the League of Women Voters and its vision of a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. And with that being said, Connie, would you please step up and present you the proclamation? If you don't mind sharing a few words.
Sure. Thank you so much, Mayor Call. Thank you. Thank you very much. We appreciate the honor that you've taken the time to do this. And as we said, it's our 100th anniversary, and we're celebrating it locally. This summer we'll have several events, and we're going to have birthday cake and maybe a little champagne on the 14th here in River City. So we really appreciate the support. This is such a great building, and you mentioned forums. We have been here several times for candidate forums. Just in the past, I think 2 weeks ago, we were here, and it's a wonderful opportunity to educate people on candidates, so when they vote, they're informed. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
for the work you guys do, too. We appreciate it. And they did just host a forum here a couple of weeks ago in conjunction with the library, so it was very informative. Thank you. Okay. Public comment on council business. Anyone wish to address the council on an agenda item, please come forward. Seeing no one. Consent agenda. Commissioner Hill?
Mr. Mayor, I move to adopt a consent agenda consisting of items numbered 1 through 5. Item number 1, adoption of resolution number 1920-111, resolution to approve payment of scheduled bills listed on schedule number 18 in the amount of $1,212,523.66. Item number 2, adoption of ordinance number 4480 on second reading, an ordinance authorizing a first amendment to the conditions imposed on the planned unit development, special use granted with respect to 115 Arnold Road in the city of East Peoria. Item number 3, adoption of ordinance number 4481 on second reading, an ordinance of authorizing a special use for the property located 727 South Main Street in the city of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, to allow the operation of a used vehicle and trailer dealership and repair shop on the property. Item number 4, adoption of resolution 1920-100 on second reading, resolution approving construction engineering services contract with Midwest Engineering Associates for Altorfer Lane improvements. Item number 5, adoption of resolution number 1920-101, and it's on its second reading, resolution accepting second change order for city sanitary sewer system upgrade project, Phase A through C construction project, change order number 2 in the amount of $143,976 as listed on the agenda for this meeting to be considered by omnibus vote.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move that items numbered 1 through 5 listed on the consent agenda be hereby approved and adopted, and items numbered 2 through 5 having been read once by their title and having laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection be adopted as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Mangus. Any discussion?
I got a question.
Sure.
If I don't like 10.1 and 10.2, how can I,
We're not there yet.
oh, okay.
We're not there yet.
Those are in it.
Oh, that's,
Consent
yeah,
agenda.
We're doing them one at a time.
this is strictly on the consent agenda items.
Okay,
Yes, sir. Okay,
okay.
any other questions?
No.
Those items I just read.
Okay, very good. Roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I have 6 items tonight. Mr. Mayor, I move you that ordinance number 4478 here to attach an ordinance authorizing conditional use for property located at 504 Riverside Drive in the city of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, to allow adult use recreational cannabis dispensary operation. Having been read once by its title and having laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection, be adopted as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Mangus.
What we have here, and we started, obviously, the second reading. This is the, again, house cleaning for the requirements. The local city ordinances require a conditional use for the sale of adult use cannabis. This is for the Riverside Drive location for NewMed, and the state had issued them a license based on their previous medical use license. And so this is follow-up to finish that work up.
Very good. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
No.
Mayor Call?
Aye.
I have 4 ayes and 1 no, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move that ordinance number 4479 here to attach an ordinance authorizing conditional use for property located at 3201 North Main Street in the city of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, to allow adult use recreational cannabis infuser operation and an adult use recreational cannabis craft growing operation. Having been read once by its title and having laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection, be adopted as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker.
What we have here is, we talked about it at length, and we have Mr. Roy Source has a building, The Hatter, that's been in the community for over 40 years. He's looking to repurpose some of his facility, and the requirements here that he must abide by all existing ordinances, and the biggest one that's an issue for this current site is that the 1,000 feet from the nearby child care business requires that most of the building as it sits today will not be able to use, and he will have to utilize space in the rear of the property.
Very good. Any discussion? Hearing none. Roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
No?
Mayor Call?
Aye.
I have 4 ayes and 1 no, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, Resolution 1920-103, hereto attach a resolution to approve abating and eliminating various tax levies for water and sewer bond issues, tax increment financing bond issues, and development bond issues be approved. Mr. Mayor, I move that this resolution 1920-103, having been read by once by its title and having laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection, be adopted as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Mangus.
As I stated last week, all of our bonds are backed by tax levy. And as we go through and identify that we have alternate revenue sufficient to cover that bond interest, we do a house cleaning action such as this, and it's to free up to say that we're not using the tax levy. We are using alternate means to do that. So that's what this is.
Discussion from the council? Hearing none. Roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I move that ordinance number 4483 hereto attach an ordinance providing for annexation of the Newnham property of the to the City of East Peoria, Illinois, PIN number 02-02-19-200-034, formerly part of PIN number 02-02-19-200-05, being read at length by clerk. That said, ordinance number 4483 be accepted on its first reading and hereby adopted as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Morgan?
Whereas a petition signed and verified by John and Christina Newnham, the petitioners, has been filed with the city clerk pursuant to and in conformance with 65 ILCS 5/7-1-8, requesting annexation to the city of a certain tract of land hereinafter described the territory, whereas attached hereto labeled as Exhibit A and is a map hereinafter the plat of annexation showing the location of the territory with respect to the current corporate limits of the city of East Peoria. Whereas the city has provided proper notice of the proposed annexation of the territory to the city as required by law to the Northern Tazewell Fire Protection District not less than 10 days prior to enacting this ordinance for annexation. Whereas it appears that the petitioners are the sole owner of record of the territory, that no electors reside within the territory, that the territory is not within the corporate limits of any municipality, that the territory is contiguous to the present corporate limits of the city of East Peoria. Now therefore be it ordained by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, that Section 1, the following described tract of land, to wit, part of lots A and H, as shown in Plat Book HH, page 75, in the Tazewell County Recorder's Office, being part of the northeast quarter of Section 19, Township 26 North, Range 3 West, of the third principal meridian in Tazewell County, Illinois, being more particularly described as follows: commencing at the northwest corner of the northeast corner of said section 19, then south 1 degree 38 minutes 34 seconds east, a distance of 50 feet, to a found 33/4-inch pipe at the backside of a concrete right-of-way monument. This being the point of beginning of the Darden subdivision, thence along the south right-of-way of Centennial Drive, north 88 degrees 57 minutes 0 seconds, east a distance of 148 feet to a set broad, thence along the west line of Darden Lane, south 1 degrees 38 minutes 34 seconds, east a distance of 294.34 feet to a set rod, thence south 88 degrees 57 minutes 0 seconds, west a distance of 148 feet to a set rod, thence along the east line of the Cypress Ridge subdivision, north 1 degree 38 minutes 34 seconds west, a distance of 294.34 feet to the point of beginning, containing 1 acre more or less. Pin 02-02-19-200-30034, formerly part of Pin 02-02-19-200-015. B, and the same is hereby annexed to and made part of the City of East Peoria and the County of Tazewell and State of Illinois. Section 2, the city clerk is hereby authorized and directed to file for record in the office of the Recorder of Deeds of Tazewell County, Illinois, and the office of the clerk of Tazewell County, Illinois, certified copy of this ordinance together with the plat of annexation attached here too. Section 3, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after its passage, approval, and recordation as provided by law.
Very good.
Yeah, we have a property that's on the corner of Darden and Centennial, and it's being divided. The property with the, I believe with the home is being sold, and the property that fronts Centennial that has adjacent to city water, this is the property that's being annexed into the city. So if somebody builds on that property in the future, their access will be off Centennial.
Well said. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, that Resolution 1920-107 hereto attached, resolution accepting the lowest responsible bid received from RNS Electric, Inc. in the amount of $7,985 for electrical work to replace the emergency power generator switch at the Public Safety Building be approved. Mr. Mayor, I move that Resolution 1920-1-107 be accepted on its first reading as read by its title and be laid on the table for no more than 1 week for public inspection.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Mangus.
Our generator at the main safety building failed or quit working November of 2019. Parts are no longer available for that transfer switch, and parts aren't available for the generator. But at the moment, we're in need of the transfer switch being replaced, and that is, this bid is the electrical work to replace for the transfer switch installation. And there were 2 bids. Well, actually, there were 3 people interested, 2 submitted bids. The other bid was for $8,420. So this lowest bid for $7,985 is the winning bid.
Very good. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, Resolution Number 1920-113 hereto attached, a resolution approving a short-term lease between the City of East Peoria and the ICC Group, Inc. for the use of vacant city property in connection with work on the Murray Baker Bridge be approved. Mr. Mayor, I move you that this resolution number 1920-113 be accepted on its first reading and as read by its title and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker.
Okay, we've got a property that runs adjacent to I-74, and everyone should know by now that the bridge will completely be closed off March 29th. This particular piece of land alongside of the I-74 near the Bass Pro and the Holiday Inn Express is going to be a staging area for that work. And this is a lease for that property to be used by the contractor that will be working on the bridge from March 29th through beginning or end of November?
October 31st.
October 31st. So this agreement is for their use of that property during that project. When the bridge is finally closed, they will actually have an access come off of I-74 just for their work. The site will be for staging of materials and I believe a construction office.
Ty, anything to add?
This is an ideal site for this staging, being adjacent to the bridge, and we're hopeful that this allows them to meet their schedule and get that project done, because it's going to be a lot of pain over the summer here to get around.
Yes, it is.
Very true. Any discussion from the council? Hearing none. Roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye,
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
thank you.
Mr. Mayor, that's all I have for tonight.
Very good. Commissioner Decker.
All right, I've got three items, Mayor. First of all, resolution number 1920-108. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, that resolution number 1920-108, hereto attached, a resolution approving a construction contract and engineering contract for improvement of the Norfolk Southern Railroad crossing at Carver Lane be approved. Mr. Mayor, I move you that this resolution number 1920-108 be accepted on its first reading as read by its title and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Mangus.
Thank you, Commissioner Mingus. Back in, it was August 6th of 2019, we approved the initial resolution. And this is actually the same thing, it's just they found that it's going to cost a little bit more than they thought, so they're coming back and approving it. Having said that, fortunately, we're not the ones that's going to be out this money. Rick, either one of you would like to
Yeah,
give
this is
any details?
this was a requirement from the Illinois Commerce Commission that these improvements be made, and it's a 100% reimbursement. The city puts up the money for the construction and engineering, and then the Illinois Commerce Commission reimburses the city for the cost of the project.
It's always nice when we can get improvements done and the city's not on the hook for paying for it.
Yep.
Well said. Any other comments from the council? Hearing none. Roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye,
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
thank you.
Next, Mayor, 1920-110. Be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Illinois, the resolution number 1920-110, hereto attached, a resolution allocating of $900,000 of motor fuel tax funds for the 2020 street maintenance program and authorizing an engineering contract with Patrick Meyer and Associates for the street maintenance program be approved. Mr. Mayor, I move you that this resolution number 1920-110 be accepted on its first reading as read by its title and be laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Commissioner. We try every year to get out as early as possible and get the road work that we would like to complete for the year out to the contractors. This is an example of that. We know each year that we're going to have motor fuel tax funds that come to us, and each year those are dedicated to the maintenance and repair of our streets. This year, it's $900,000. It's up quite a bit from last year. I believe last year's was a little over $600,000. And we're looking forward to that, and we could spend all of it and more. We had a working session prior to this meeting that was very informative, and I appreciate Rick and Pat talking about our streets and the rating system. This is all the work that will be completed throughout the year. The reason that it's important to do it in the beginning of February is because right now, the other communities, most of them, have not yet submitted their projects. So the earlier we get those out to the contractors, we have historically recognized better pricing. Not only do we recognize better pricing, then throughout the year, if we'll start with $900,000, if we're able through our budget process to add monies to that, our contractors in Central Illinois have always been good about still honoring the prices that we've been quoted in the beginning. And of course, they're happy to add more work and get paid more as well. But it's important for us to continue to do this every year. I appreciate the work and efforts you guys have done. I don't know if there's anything I'm missing. Okay.
Well said. Any comments from the council?
Yeah, to me, we talked about during the working session, the $900,000, which was actually due to the increase in the motor fuel tax, is a good start, but it's barely on the maintenance side, and we know that we need to continue to attempt to find more funds, and I'm committed to continue to try to strive to find more money for our streets, because we have, as we discussed in the previous session, the maintenance, 900's, not bad for the maintenance, but what we really are lacking is really the capital reconstruction fund. So all in all, to most people listening, and it's funds for the street, whether it's maintenance and/or reconstruction. Obviously, the reconstruction's the most obvious that people consider when we're talking about roads, but both are key elements to prolonging and making our entire street program work.
Other comments from the council? Hearing none. Just a couple brief comments. $900,000 in the grand scheme of things isn't a lot of dollars. This is for the maintenance program. Last year, before we found some additional funds to bump it up, I think the 2 years previous to that, we spent around $600,000. So we're headed in the right direction. It's not perfect, but, there's a lot of work to be done, and I'm confident in this council moving forward. I mean, next few years are going to be a little bit lean, but we'll stretch our dollars the best we can and do what we can with it. But, we talked about in the working session the GSB overlay, and I can remember on the previous council when that was kind of a new concept, and hey, let's try it and see. I'll be honest with you, I'm really impressed with the outcome of that, and I think the residents along those roadways would concur with that. So kind of looking forward to see what we can do here. We've got work to be done, but appreciate everyone's input on, the plan that we have in place for 2020. So we'll see where the capital budget discussion ends, and maybe we can squeeze a few more pennies out.
That'd be
So
great.
stay tuned for that one. All right, roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye,
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
thank you.
All right, my last item, Mayor. Resolution number 1920-112. Whereas Don Lyon has been continuously employed for the city from August 31st, 1998 through January 3rd, 2020, most recently occupying the position of driver in the Streets Department for Public Works. Whereas Don Lyon announced his intention to retire from employment effective at the end of the day on January 3rd, 2020, and whereas the city is appreciative of the long and continued service provided by Don Lyon, and whereas it is in the best interest of the city to execute the attached separation agreement. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, that Section 1, the above recitals are found to be true and correct. Section 2, the mayor is hereby authorized to execute the separation agreement with such changes as the mayor, in his sole discretion, may decide are in the best interest of the City of East Peoria. Mr. Mayor, I move you that resolution number 1920-112 be adopted as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner Sutherland.
Thank you, Commissioner Sutherland. I've known Don for years, and he lives close to me, so talk to him often. He'll drive by, he'll see me out, and stop and chat for a few minutes. Really good guy. He's a really good driver. He was into driving semis before he got into the City of East Peoria. Like Don, over the last 10 years, we've really lost a lot of experience from Public Works, and that's going to be missed. Having said that, Don was a good employee, and he certainly has worked hard and deserves to enjoy retirement. So I think he's watching right now, so I wish him the best of luck, and congratulations on your retirement.
Well said. Comments from the council?
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner.
I don't second things too often, as you guys have ever noticed up here. I jump in when it's kind of like down my alley, and I want to say that Don's one of the nicest guys I've ever met in my entire life, and I've known him way before I had anything to do with city council. Give you the shirt off his back. Good dude.
Yep, and I just want to congratulate him on his retirement, thank him for his 21 years of service. He is a good guy, and wish him well in his retirement years, and hope he makes the most of it. Roll call?
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye,
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
thank you.
That's all I have, Mayor.
Very good. Commissioner Sutherland? You have nothing, huh?
Mr. Mayor, I have nothing. I have nothing to
Okay.
give. I apologize.
No need. Commissioner Mingus?
I have 3 items this evening, Your Honor. First item, be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria that resolution number 1920-102, hereto attached, a resolution approving a 2-year contract with SiteMed agreement for annual firefighter physicals for the fire department be approved. Mr. Mayor, I move you that this resolution number 1920-102, having been read once by its title and having laid on the table for no less than 1 week for public inspection, be adopted as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. This is the second reading for the contract that the fire department would like to have with SiteMed to do the annual physicals. Talked about it last meeting. It is a new company that we are going with, or that we would like to go with, that will come on site to do the physicals. The command staff feels that this will be better for our staff and feels that it'll be a positive change, so we're looking forward to this agreement.
Well said. Comments from the council?
Mayor, the reason this was not on in the beginning and it's here is because I'm going to abstain as I did last meeting.
Very good. Any other comments? Hearing none, roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Abstain.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye.
4 ayes and 1 abstention,
Thank
Your
you.
Honor.
My second item, Your Honor, I'm going to read at length. This will be the first time I've had to do this, so I hope I don't screw it up, but it's not very long. Resolution authorizing temporary increase in the number of firefighters on the East Peoria Fire Department. Whereas Title I, Chapter 5, Section 2.1 of the East Peoria City Code authorizes the City Council to determine from time to time by resolution the number of individuals who hold each rank on the East Peoria Fire Department. And whereas in December 2018, pursuant to Resolution Number 1819-106, the city temporarily increased the number of firefighters on the fire department by 3 to a total of 33 firefighters in an effort to minimize overtime costs in the fire department. And whereas in accordance with Resolution Number 189-106, the temporary increase of 33 in the number of firefighters in the fire department that was approved in December 2018 will then decrease back down to 30 through attrition of members leaving the fire department after April 30th, 2020. And whereas a firefighter has submitted his letter of intent to retire in June 2020, and whereas the city seeks to retain the number of firefighters at a level of 33 upon the retirement of this firefighter, while determining whether the staffing levels of firefighters will be decreased back to 30 at a later date after passage of this resolution, and whereas it is in the best interest of the City of East Peoria to temporarily increase the total number of individuals holding the rank of firefighter in East Peoria Fire Department by 1 to 34, and whereas it is in the best interest of the city that after the retirement of this firefighter in June 2020, the total number of firefighters in the fire department be reduced by 1 to 33, and thereafter the total number of firefighters in the fire department be reduced through attrition to 30. Now therefore be it resolved by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, that Section 1, effective immediately, the fire department of the City of East Peoria shall consist of the following personnel: A, 1 fire chief; B, 2 deputy fire chiefs; C, 3 assistant fire chiefs; D, 9 lieutenants; E, 34 firefighters; F, 1 paid on-call firefighter. Section 2, the fire chief is hereby authorized and directed to notify the Police and Fire Commission of the temporary increase in firefighters and to request the Police and Fire Commission to undertake the process of appointing a probationary firefighter to fill the position hereby created. Section 3, subject to further action by the City Council effective on June 30th, 2020, the Fire Department of the City of East Peoria shall consist of the following personnel upon attrition to the staffing levels established in Resolution 1819-106. A, 1 fire chief; B, 2 deputy fire chiefs; 3 assistant fire chiefs; D, 9 lieutenants; E, 30 firefighters; F, 1 paid on-call firefighter. Mr. Mayor, I move you that Resolution Number 1920-109 be adopted as presented.
May I have a second?
Second, yes. Second.
Commissioner Hill, thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Hill. So what this resolution proposes is that we temporarily increase the manning of the fire department from 33 to 34 because we have an individual retiring, and I believe, Chief Knapp, you can correct me if I'm wrong, his last day is in June of 2020.
Correct.
And so with his last day being in June of 2020, in order to keep our manning where it is once that individual retires, we need to get a new person hired now so we can get that person to the fire academy, get that person trained and ready to hit the streets when our retiring individual leaves. One other thing I'll note in that resolution is it talks about the temporary manning that was done last year, and it would be my intent to sit down with Chief Knapp and take a look at how that has saved the overtime costs for the fire department and at a later date, take a look at that and potentially make a proposal to the city council that we extend that for a year, so we have additional data to make sure that that does save us money for multiple, we want to look at multiple years to make sure before something is made permanent. But the main purpose of this is to temporarily increase the fire department so we can get a new guy on and ready to hit the streets when our retiring firefighter goes off into retirement.
Well said. Any discussion?
Mayor, I don't know if I really need to or not, but just out of an abundance of caution, I'm going to abstain on this one as well.
Understood. Any other comments? Hearing none. Roll call?
Commissioner Decker?
Abstain.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye.
4 ayes and 1 abstention, Your Honor.
Thank you.
My final item, Your Honor. Mr. Mayor, I move you that ordinance number 4482, here to attach an ordinance amending Title 10, Chapter 1 of the East Peoria City Code pertaining to truancy and excessive absenteeism, be read at length by the clerk, and that said ordinance number 4482 be accepted on its first reading and hereby adopted as presented.
May I have a second, please?
Second.
Thank you, Commissioner Decker. Morgan?
Whereas the City of East Peoria, the city is an Illinois municipal corporation in accordance with the Constitution of the State of Illinois of 1970, whereas the city requires persons under the age of 18 who are enrolled in a public, private, or parochial school within city limits to attend school unless they have a valid reason for not attending. Whereas since the 2014-2015 school year, the Illinois School Code has mandated compulsory attendance at school for children between the ages of 6 and 17 years old. And whereas since the 2014-2015 school year, the Illinois School Code has also required any person having custody or control of a child who is not of compulsory age but is below the age of 6 years or 17 years of age or above, and who is enrolled in any of the grades kindergarten through 12 in a public school to cause that child to attend school unless the child has a valid reason for not attending. And whereas the city desires to amend the city code to also address the attendance of pupils who are not of compulsory school age but are enrolled in the public, private, or parochial school within the corporate limits of the city to be compelled to attend school unless they have a valid excuse, thereby complying with the Illinois School Code. Be it ordained by the Council of the City of East Peoria, Tazewell County, Illinois, that Section 1, Title 10, Chapter 1, Section 4.18 of the East Peoria City Code is hereby amended to read as follows. Additions are indicated by underline, deletions by strikeout. 10-1-4.18, truancy and excessive absenteeism prohibited. A, truancy shall be unlawful for any person between the ages of 1, between the ages of 6 and 17 years, or 2, under the age of 21, enrolled in any of grades kindergarten through 12th grade in a public, private, or parochial school within the corporate limits of the city to absent him or herself from attendance at school without a valid cause. Any person who should so absent himself or herself shall be guilty of the offense of truancy. B, excessive absenteeism shall be unlawful for any person enrolled in any of grades kindergarten through 12th grade in a public, private, or parochial school within the corporate limits of the city to absent himself or herself from attendance at school for 5 or more student attendance days during any one school year unless such absenteeism is for valid cause and has been approved by his or her school district. Section 2, Title 10, Chapter 1, Section 4.19 of the East Peoria City Code is hereby amended to read as follows. Additions are indicated by underline, deletions by strikeout. 10-1-4.19, parental allowance of truancy or excessive absenteeism prohibited. A, it shall be unlawful for a parent or a person in local parentis to knowingly permit any person, 1, between the ages of 6 and 17 years old, or 2, under the age of 21 to commit an act of truancy or excessive absenteeism as defined in Section 10-1-4.18. The Section 10-1-4.19a does not apply to a parent or person in local parentis of a student if the student is legally emancipated from the parent or person in local parentis. B, a parent or person in local parentis shall be considered to have knowingly permitted any person under Section 10-1-4.18 to commit an act of truancy as defined in said section when the parent or person in local parentis knows that said person absents himself or herself from attendance at school without valid cause and the parent or person in local parentis fails to act to ensure that the person attends the school in which he or she is enrolled. C, a parent or person in local parentis shall be considered to have knowingly permitted a person to commit the offense of excessive absenteeism is defined above when the parent or person in local parentis provides a written or oral excuse for the person's non-attendance, which is false or does not amount to valid cause. Section 3, this ordinance is hereby ordered to be published in pamphlet form by the city clerk, and said clerk is ordered to keep at least 3 copies hereof available for public inspection in the future in accordance with the Illinois Municipal Code. Section 4, this ordinance is in addition to all other ordinances on the subject, shall be construed there with exceptions to that part in direct conflict with any other ordinance, and in the event of such conflict, the provisions hereof shall govern. Section 5, this ordinance shall be in full force and effect from and after passage, approval, and 10-day period of publication in the manner provided by law.
Thank you. What this is at the request of East Peoria Community High School, we're amending our ordinance to reflect the current law, which the ages have changed now. You have to be in school if your age is 6 to 17 or if you are enrolled in school, and this changes our ordinance to reflect that, which will make it easier, I'm sure, for not only the high school but District 86 to enforce their attendance policies.
Well said. Comments from the council? I want to give credit where credit is due. Mrs. Marjorie Gruder, the superintendent of 309, reached out to point out that our ordinance needed to be updated. So I appreciate her doing that. That's a good example of collaboration, and we do appreciate it. So hopefully it helps you guys as well. So roll call.
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you.
That's all I have this evening, Your Honor.
Very good. Any public comment? Anyone wish to address the council on a non-agenda item? Anything you wish to address the council on? Please step forward. Wow. Quiet crowd. Everyone's hungry, huh? Okay. Very good. Comments from the council? Commissioner Decker.
One item, Mayor. A couple of years ago, a friend of mine named Justin Hale works on the fire department with me. He called me and he asked me if I would want to be a part of helping him bring the traveling Vietnam Wall to East Peoria. And it was one of those things when he first asked me. I don't know if we really talked about it much then, but a little while later he asked again, and we discussed it a little bit more. Then I called Mayor Mingus, and we had already looked to see if there was enough room out here in the Levy Park. And Mayor Mingus was nothing but supportive. It was something we wanted to keep quiet at that time, but he was supportive, thought it was a great idea. So we started moving forward, and then when Mayor Call was elected, we talked with him about it as well. He's been nothing but supportive. So we've started a committee to talk about, to plan bringing the wall here. But the reason I want to talk about it is this. Justin is one of those that goes on the honor flight. He's gone on, I think, 12 or 13 of them. I've gone on, I believe, 4. Chief Knapp's gone on some as well. It is an honor to assist those on the honor flight. These people have risked their lives in times of war, and it's an opportunity to take them out to Washington, D.C. to see the memorials that they fought for us to have the right to have. So the Vietnam Wall, Justin, when he started talking about it, said, I just want to bring it here because not everybody's able to make it out to Washington, D.C. to see the wall. So I say all that because it is official. It is now coming to the city of East Peoria. It's going to be September 23rd through the 27th. And I'm not going to talk about it every council meeting, but I would like the public to find out about it. And we're going to have a good time. We have a meeting on Thursday to discuss, continuing to discuss some of the details. But we want to make it a pretty neat event. We would like to have at least one day where we are able to honor those that served in not only Vietnam, but all the wars that have helped protect our nation. When the traveling wall comes to a community, the person that is the curator of the wall suggests that you find a cause to raise money for. So it's only fitting that we're going to raise money for the honor flight. Peoria Area Honor Flight, it was started by some friends of ours and it was exactly that. They have a very patriotic family that they wanted to I guess, give back and try to get the people out to Washington DC that needs to see these memorials. So it's only fitting for us, if it's possible to raise money through this effort, we want to donate to that. So anything that anybody would like to do to assist, we greatly appreciate it. But right now, I just want to get the word out, and it's going to be a good time, hopefully right out here in the Levy Park, and it'll be a really neat event. It should, like I said, September 23rd through the 27th.
Well said.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hill.
Nothing from me, Your Honor.
Commissioner Sutherland, now's your time.
Hey, listen, I don't have anything to say tonight.
Oh, my goodness.
No, it's true.
Wow. Okay. Commissioner Mangus.
I haven't had anything to say the last couple of meetings, but I do have something this evening. Just want to point out that last week we had 2 fires in pretty large establishments, one at Riverview and one at Texas Roadhouse. And a lot of people may not know about those fires because they were quickly extinguished and dealt with. And I want to recognize a couple things. One, a lot of times code enforcement or life safety issues get brought up even here where people aren't always happy with that. But there's a reason that we have those regulations in the city, and that is because we want to make sure we preserve first life and then property. And both of those fires, we were assisted with the sprinkler systems that were in the facilities that caught on fire. And the other thing I want to recognize is our fire department. We, unlike many of our neighboring communities, have a full-time professional fire department who, when the tones go off at, I believe one was at 12:30 a.m. and one was at 2 a.m., they are ready to go and can jump into our equipment and go and put those fires out, which the sprinklers do a little bit, but without firefighters on scene within minutes, the fires still could get out of hand. So you don't hear about a lot of loss of life or property in the city of East Peoria, and I think that's 2 reasons why you don't hear about that. Is we make sure that our facilities are up to date and up to code, and we have a fire department that is ready to serve its citizens at any given time. So just wanted to point that out.
Well said. So I'm going to echo a couple things. First of all, he talked about fires. I'm going to talk about something that happened right out in front of City Hall the other morning. And I've had the privilege of going out with members of our fire department on emergency calls and a couple of structure fires as their commissioner. I thought it was pretty amazing to see what else they do in action, and members of the City Hall got to see it. There was an emergency call of a cardiac arrest right in front of Xfinity. A gentleman collapsed on the sidewalk right out here. First one on the scene, besides an officer, I believe, showed up about the same time, was one of our deputy chiefs. And to watch him begin the compressions as the other folks followed suit, arriving on scene, was pretty amazing. You don't get that in a lot of communities, so hats off to them. So wanted to point that out. And then secondly, on the Vietnam Wall Memorial, Commissioner Decker and Justin Hell have put a couple years into this, and it's probably a good thing it's not until September. We'll get Justin in front of more cameras so he gets a little more comfortable. But no, they've really done a good job. This is exciting. We're going to try to do a little more of an event around that time frame, so stay tuned for that. The contributions, anyone willing to donate, will East Peoria Community Foundation, they can submit any type of monetary donation to that, and those funds are being used for the honor flight, so and to help offset the cost of bringing the memorial, which I think is around $7,000.
7,000 total, yes.
Yeah, but pretty neat deal. Great way to honor those veterans. On the honor flight, I've been out to Washington, D.C. with my kids, and I'm a veteran. And to go out there to those memorials, whether it's World War II, Vietnam, Korean, they're all pretty amazing. And it's just really touching to see the veterans that served in those conflicts, especially those that have never seen those before. And it's just, it's silent. It's really moving, and it really brought full circle to my kids kind of what that means to those veterans that served in those conflicts. The reason why I'm bringing this up, one thing about the honor flight, and it wasn't until I was at the junior high last spring, and their honorary guest at that assembly was a Vietnam veteran. And to watch, he was very nervous to speak in front of the kids. And the reason why they asked him to speak was he had just returned from an honor flight, and they thought, wow, this would be pretty amazing to get this guy to speak to the kids. And, what did it mean to you? He enjoyed the memorial. That was, something he didn't know if he would do or not do. Got through that. Is what really made it for him was the homecoming. And that guy got emotional, and he thanked everybody for being at the airport, and he had waited how many years for that day to come? And that's what meant the most to him. So if anyone has an opportunity to be out at the Peoria airport when those folks come back, that goes to show you what it means to them. So I encourage anyone that can do it, take an hour, 2 hours out of your evening. It's usually typically later at night, but that means a lot, especially for those that weren't thanked when they returned from their service. So with that being said, I would seek a motion to adjourn.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we adjourn until Tuesday evening, February 11th, 2020, at 4 p.m.
May I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Didn't think so. Roll call?
Commissioner Decker?
Aye.
Hill?
Aye.
Mingus?
Aye.
Sutherland?
Aye.
Mayor Call?
Aye.
All present voting aye, Your Honor.
Thank you. Until we meet again, we are adjourned.